So the deck that I'm going to play in the blind today is a Meleria Pod deck. Now, important things to remember about Meleria Pod is that they have an infinite life combo that will kill you by proxy, because you basically can't deal infinite damage to them, and then eventually they can infinite damage combo you. Now, they've also become more and more of a junk pod rather than a straight Meleria all-in combo pod, which exists. So you're going to want to go ahead and make sure that that you know that they're probably going to try to do mid-range beats with you, and that's actually really good against you. But it's not as good as their combo. So you have more of a fighting chance as long as they can't get their combo off. It's sort of like the twin matchup where you go, if you take away their oops I win button, you have a pretty good matchup chance against them. But because they're bad mid-range, they're not like Jund mid-range, which is just good mid-range. But unlike the twin matchup where you take their oops I win combo button away from them, you're left with a tempo deck where you're really favorable against. Mid-range is still pretty bad for you to play against. So you're going to want to go ahead and make sure that you get that early damage in as fast as possible while simultaneously refusing the oops I win button. The worst thing is that they've got access to Finks, not just like a lot of these decks mainboard 3 to 4 Finks, but also they have like 2 Court of Calling, plus another, 4 birthing pods, so that's almost like 10 different ways to get Finks out. Did I do my math right there? 4 plus 4 plus 2. I did do my math right. Look at that. Woo, I'm so smart. So like almost up towards to 10 different ways to get out Finks on you. Which sucks, because if you think about it, then you've also almost got like 20 different Finks that you gotta deal with because it comes back to life. So a lot of things you can do to really try to kill that plan. That's a big one. And that's Gore Clan Rampage, which is going to be in your core anyways. So that's good against them. Also, any Path to Exile or any sort of exiling effects, they're still going to gain the 2 life, but it's better than nothing, and you still manage to get them gone for a little while. That early damage is really you're going to want to plug away at, because if you can refuse their combo deck and refuse their Finks, if you can manage to do both of them, they just become a really top-heavy mid-range. Not top-heavy, I should say bottom-heavy. That's a lot of mana dorks. And that's good for you. That's really, really good for you. So I'll talk about the sideboarding after the matchup. The die roll, but I've got a fetch land, 2 lands, Tarmogoyf, protection for my creatures, and a wild Noctowl, so it's a good enough keep for me. And it seems like we're probably against Hate Bears, or a big zoo. Probably Hate Bears, though. Okay, we got something relevant to do next turn as well. I'm not going to crack my fetch land, because I'd like to get another land, so it's no reason to land thin right now. Oh, I totally should be fucking land thinning. Whoa, no. If we're against Hate Bears, then I've got to be land thinning right now. Not land thinning, fetching. I've got to be fetching. So... My bad, I lied, guys. No, you fetch when you can against the Hate Bears matchup. That was just almost brain farty of me. Because if he's got out the what is it, 3 mana for Kitchen Finks? Sure. It does stop me from, never mind, it doesn't stop me from attacking. I always dislike using Path to Exile on like turn 2, but sometimes you just gotta do it. Because I don't want to use a Boros Charm, because that'll slow me down too much. Here's where I wish I still had main deck Pillar of Flames. It must be junk if he's got like all this stuff, so probably Lingering Souls and whatnot. He basically just cycled, well, I mean, he basically had just an untapped land come into play with that, plus got an extra land, so he mana ramped. If it's junk, then I don't necessarily mind helping him get the higher mana, because the only thing I'd be afraid of at this point would be a Batterskull. A Ranger of Eos. Oh, he must be Meleria Pod. Yeah, he's probably Pod. Yeah, he's totally Pod. So I could double strike here and kill his Ranger of Eos without having to worry about losing my dude. I could Tarmogoyf, which would then be a 3. Or I could Knight of the Reliquary, which seems like a better plan in general. I'm gonna go ahead and sacrifice my Wild Noctil. Because Knight of the Reliquary is a better get anyways. Reason being is I can pump the other Knight too next turn. He got a bird, and I think the only reason he got a bird probably was because he's got a birthing pod. I'm gonna have to out-strength this birthing pod. I think the best thing I can do is put out another Reliquary next turn, tap this Knight of the Reliquary, get some damage in there, so that way I can double strike my my next Knight of the Reliquary. Ooh, that doesn't necessarily become a thing anymore. So I could also put out 2 Tarmogoyfs. I think I'm just gonna risk an attack here and just see if he wants to trade. Maybe he got scared and wouldn't trade. Seems fine. What I'm gonna do here is get myself a fetch land. Yeah, I think into a plains probably is the best idea. Now, did I take the 1 damage? I don't think I did. Yeah. So that's gonna go ahead and give me a mana. And I'm gonna cast a Tarmogoyf. And I'm gonna cast another Tarmogoyf. All of these guys are 3/4s with the option of getting bigger. And it does let me make this guy 5/5. This girl, excuse me, she's got breasticles. So I'm basically saying here, if he doesn't have the way to combo off next turn, I can pretty much overrun him. Because once that spell gets in the yard, that pumps up my Tarmogoyf. My Knight of the Reliquary is already big enough to just kill anything that he's trying to block with. This does allow him to upgrade once, so he's going to lose 2 life, probably go into a Kitchen Finks to gain himself the life back up. That's what I thought. So we want to draw a removal spell here, which we do, actually. This is totally, it counts as a removal spell. And what does that do though? Hold on, before I cast this, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just attack. So that way maybe he'll block with the Finks. If he doesn't, do I have the win? Yeah, I do. If he doesn't block with the Finks, I got the win. Well, I don't have the win, no. Well, yeah, I don't think I've got the win, because double strike doesn't do it, although 4 damage might do it. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8. 8 plus that, he loses 1 life. So I'd have to do it in response to the Kitchen Finks and him probably birthing potting. So the question here is, now I know he's got the Viscera Seer. Now if he has the Viscera Seer and he has, if he gets a Meleria Pod, no, then it doesn't matter. What I have to do is in response to, I'd have to do it in response to his comboing off. You'd have to pay 2 life with the birthing pod in order for me to do it. That's the only way I can think of winning here. So at least gets target creature double strike, not target creature you control. Otherwise, I would have done it and just won the game. I mean, I'm hopeful that he's just greedy here. He has to cast it, right? He doesn't have to be greedy, though. He still has 1 mana left over, so unless he's just greedy, or he's afraid that I've got the blowout right here. Especially now that his Spellskite isn't around, he might wait a bit, which is good for me, or he tries to Birthing Pod for value. I mean, I know what the combo does. I'm just trying to see if he does anything greedy about it. Or if there's anything I can do. Ooh, not game information. So, unlock the sideboard. This is where I'm going to put in things like Chained. So we take out the Boros Charms and we put in the Grafdigger's Cage, put in the Chained. I was talking to some people on the thread about this matchup, and they said they'd much rather have me side in Artifact Hate than side in like anti their creature hate. So that being said, I'm just gonna side out probably Experimental 1 and keep it like this. It's weird, I've got a lot of Artifacts Hate my side, but I'm not gonna side it in for this matchup. I'd much rather get Pod or Grafdigger's Cage. The problem is this is a solid hand, and I don't like mulling solid hands away. I know I'm down 1, but I'm gonna see what he says. I want to see if he says keep or not. If he moles, then I'm definitely keeping this hand. So I'm gonna play a little bit of the waiting game. All right, so he's probably seeing if I'm holding it. It's like one of those stupid things. Yeah, takes a mulligan. Yeah, I knew it. Gotcha. Woohoo! See, that I definitely had to bait there. That's something that you sort of learn, is that if people think they have unsteady hands, then they'll go ahead and they'll be afraid that I've got the hate in my hand, and they'll mull for it. It's something that you can do, is just freak people out. And that's exactly what I did there. I got a weird hand where I just drew the Experiment 1. That's fine. I still have a way to evolve it to big. I'm probably just gonna outspeed him here, I'll be honest with you. Especially since he mulled to 5. I can't see. He'd have to have 2 out of. Most of his hand would have to be leading up to a Kitchen Finks in order for him to be able to win. So I'm just going to speed him here. I've got access to doing like a ton of damage next turn. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 damage next turn. Bringing him down to 10, plus I still have Gore Clan Rampager for Eventual. If I could draw a Bolt. Oh, no, I still have a Lightning Helix. I could totally just kill him. Kill his land ramp. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Rather than pumping. I think that's a better plan. Just take advantage of his moles, not let him get his land that he needs. And that seems like the better plan overall. Sure, and I can Gore Clan Rampager over it, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just a bump in the road. Yeah, and that was it. It was just a bump in the road. And I knew that that was what's going to happen. If he was willing to keep, then I'd have to mull because I'd know that I've got something. I got a Grafdigger's Cage here. That's better than nothing. I've got access to being able to play Experiment 1 slow roll. So I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Yeah, he could definitely beats me. But I'm going to hold off and wait here. And let him say keep. The hope is that we draw into a second land here. And that he's got a pod in hand that I screw. So I'm not going to play the pod right now. And here's the reasoning for not playing the pod right now. Or for playing the cage right now. I'm not going to play the cage right now. I want to see him play pod, because then that will be a waste of a turn, 2 life on his end. And I don't lose my quote-unquote value by doing it. Spellskite, sure. I do draw a land, that's good. That's definitely what I wanted to see here. So let's see here. He could pod into something next turn if he had the land. And that would do what if he did that? 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could play pod at full value, or we could play pod at 3, lose 2 life, then lose 2 life and put out something that's 2. Oh, no, where you can put out the... yeah, I want to stop it here. I don't want him putting out, I don't want him putting out a stupidness. A stupidness is what the technical term for it is, if you didn't know. A kitchen Finks. I would rather him not have a kitchen Finks. Kitchen Finks in general is worse. Yes, it's cool that I've got a Grafdigger's Cage to basically just stop it. What makes it better is I have a Grafdigger's Cage backup too. So even if he like Quasali Pride Mages and blows it, which I don't mind, I just play another one and he's screwed out of the water. He can't get to it. Obstinate Bailoff. That's fine. I've got Path mana and I've also got Overrun mana, so it's not like that big of a deal for me. I don't want to play into it though, preemptively. Oh no, but it's attacking creature, so Spellskite can't get it, can't block it, or you can block it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lose the 1 life. Rampager on my Experiment 1, which is going to kill him, bring him down 2 damage at least. We're just ruining his cards in his hand slowly but surely. He's got mana. Definitely if he's got 1 more mana, he can start doing Galvany Township Pump. But then we can just start removing things with Path to Exile, plus we still have Gorkline Rampager. It doesn't seem like the best move in the world. Question here is, I don't think he can kill anything by pumping. You can turn these into eventually big enough. But for right now, as it stands, there are 1, 2, it's a 2, 3 if I play the Tarmogoyf, which will pump my Experiment 1. So it doesn't really do anything other than gain me tempo, because I'm not going to do any more damage. But it's also going to gain me tempo on the Tarmogoyf. He's going to lose 2 life at least. And I've still got the ability to Path to Exile something. And I guess that's what he's trying to do now. He's trying to gain like some beatdown abilities here. The problem is with that, I've got a Gorkline Rampager for whatever I choose to block. Like 1/5 still ain't big enough to deal with it. He's gonna have to be at least a 3/7 to deal with my Curd Ape here. Sure, Shrink Bomb. And I don't want to waste my path here either, is the other thing. I think I'm just going to attack and let him block. And if he doesn't block with the Shrink Maw, that's fine. See, what I can do is I can still path it if I need to. And I can still Lightning Helix it too. He cannot pump it twice. So I still have ability to path to Exile here. And I'd rather Lightning Helix it next turn, even if he does make it bigger, and that's fine. I think one of the interesting things I do here is I just simply attack, and I let him pump, because it wastes his mana, although I guess that's what's going to happen regardless. So I guess I'm just going to go ahead and Lightning Helix ahead of time. Yeah, I'm just going to do this and take 1 life. Because I don't think he has any redirects. And he could pump, but it's still not going to do anything, so this is still going to do a crap ton of damage to him. 3. 5 damage, which is still going to be enough eventually. And that's just going to kill his birds. And I still got the Path to Exile for anything he does put out. I want to save my creatures. I'm sure he's got a Birthing Pod stuck in hand. And that's just basically what I'm doing. I'm just removing pretty much everything he owns. He's only got 1 card in hand, and he's down to 6 life now. I think at this point I'm going to just go play my my Loom Lion, because I don't think there's anything he can really do about it. I'm also going to get another Grafdigger's Cage out there. I'm not even going to pretend like I've got something in my hand. And this will eventually outvalue him. Yeah, good game. And he left, just like that. Alright, so that was the Birthing Pod matchup. Or the Meleria Pod matchup, which actually can turn in your favor so long as you've got the correct sideboard tech for it. It's not an easy matchup. That's definitely our hardest matchup, especially Meleria Pod. Kiki-Jiki Pod is a little bit easier because you can just deal with the combo and then they become a really, really bad mid-range. But Meleria Pod is just sort of resistant to hate, which makes it a lot better. Plus, it has just the sheer amount of Finks in that deck can kill you. So what I've got here is a list of cards that I think personally are good against the Meleria Pod matchup. You got a whole slew of graveyard hate and a very few amount of creature hate. So you've got Grafdigger's Cage, which is by far, right away, the best. You saw in my matchup that I had Grafdigger's Cage out and it screwed him. I saw what was in his hand because I replayed afterwards, and he did in fact have a pod in there that I was not letting him use, and he did draw a Chord of Calling. All of these things, I nuked with the Grafdigger's Cage. Grafdigger's Cage completely nukes the pod deck. One of the reasons why I use this over other Graveyard Hate, well, other Graveyard Hate can hit other decks, and this like one doesn't stop things like Living End. Grafdigger's Cage does just finish the pod matchup, as you guys saw. And the pod matchup's so bad for us, I would say it's definitely probably the worst matchup for us of the true Tier 1 decks. I mean, there's stuff like Blue Moon, which is worse for us. But of the true Tier 1 decks, I would say the Pod matchup is the absolute worst for us. So I'd much rather have a strong Graveyard Hate than Graveyard Hit that's general but doesn't hurt Pod all that much. But on the flip end, you can still use Relic of Progenitus, Tormad's Crypt, Fairy Macabre, I can't ever pronounce that name right, or Scavenging Ooze. All of these guys are Graveyard Hate and are general enough that they will still hate out the Meleria Pod decks to degrees of success. Obviously, Grafdigger's Cage nukes them completely. Relic of Progenitus they can play around because they've always got to see it there. Tormad's Crypt doesn't cost you any mana, therefore it is tempoliss. So if you're worried that you've got too much mana, oh yeah, and Rest in Peace too, I forgot about that one. I knew I was forgetting one. Rest in Peace as well, which just nukes them the minute that you put it out there. But it costs 2 mana, and your 2 converted mana costs, 2 converted slot might be filled. And you definitely got to get out there before the Finks comes out. Or as the Finks comes out. Relic of Progenitus, I told you, it could be played around, same thing as Tormad's Crypt. The only one that can't be played around is Fairy Macabre, which I've done to some success back when Pod was an ink, just learning to be a deck, and Living End was also just starting to be a deck as well. It's completely random. They never know it's coming. They block, and they're like, that's fine, I'll bring it back. And you're like, nope! There's your combo dead. Everything's tapped. Woo! Scavenging Ooze is good because it allows you to beat down while killing stuff. And you'll notice that I've got 2 other things in here. We've got Chain to the Rocks as well as Path to Exile and Gore Clan Rampager. For the all intents and purposes, these 3 cards are known as Kill Finks in this matchup. Gore Clan makes your creatures survive and kill Finks and negates their life gain that they get. Chain to the Rocks is the better Path to Exile because it gets rid of their kitchen Finks. I would say it's Path to Exile number 5 and 6 if you needed it in your sideboard. Path to Exile is awesome. I've recently upped my Path to Exile count up to 4 because I've needed it. And it's main deckable, so it's good. And it hates on pretty much everything they want to do. Notice the only artifact hate I have in this list is Stony Silence. It's going to be a weird call, but in my testing I found that artifact hate that's too general, aka any just direct kill artifact hate, is bad against them, because if they decide not to go on the pod route, then it's just you left mana open for really nothing, and they just beat you. Stony Silence is only worth mentioning on the list because you can preemptively cast it, and it kind of screws their pod plan over before they even have the chance to cast pod. Remember, if they cast pod, they have the option to... You can't respond to it entering the battlefield and destroy it. They have the option to do something with it prior because they've got the priority. So Stony Silence is the only thing that effectively hates them out from being able to use pod, or at least not cycle pod, while having the upside of making Spellskite useless as well. It's just a big blocker. So Stony Silence is the only one I would sideboard in against the Meleria Pod. I would not sideboard in any of the other artifact hates like Destructive Revelry, Wear and Tear, or like even Ancient Grudge, because it's just a waste of a slot. So that's how you beat Pod, at least Meleria Pod. You just got to make sure that they turn into a mid-range deck and then not let them do anything super mid-rangey. Yeah, the guy at maybe the last game, right? I put it out. Yeah, the last game. He still managed to get out some big stuff against me. Big stuff. He managed to get out stuff like, oh gosh, what do you call it? A Baloth. He still managed to pump his dudes, his mana dorks, to a point where they could remove my guys. But I played in a way that was smart and kept him on his heels. He just couldn't really do anything effectively. I screwed his Oops I Win button over, and I delayed his mid-range game long enough that I just wrecked him. That's called smart playing, and that's how you got to beat the Meleria Pod decks. So guys, that's the Meleria Pod decks, and remember to feed your animals.